Jambo. That's a little bit of Swahili for you. But as you can see, my background has changed, but it's still the same show, same time as always. And this is the last week that we're doing for season 1. So I'm pretty excited. Thank you guys for being with me as we, went through this journey. And it's been pretty different. COVID has had a lot of people shut in and shut out, and Miss Starr gave us this opportunity to sort of come together and sort of speak on things that were near and dear to my heart, as well as other people. I mean, we spoke on the importance of HBCUs in the diaspora, to Black media, which was an extensive topic in itself, then the Pan-Africanism, medical racism, and now we get to talk about the Black radical tradition, as well as just Black people in the medium of being revolutionary and advocating for social change and justice. It's been a lot, hasn't it? It's been a lot, haven't it? Like, just every day is 7:00 p.m. if you're in the East Coast. For about an hour and 30 minutes, we all just come in. We thank Dr. Quarles for being there. We thank all the young people for coming in, especially the HBCU students. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you can't tell, my tone is a little bit more mellowed out because I'm just sort of sitting here thinking about everything that's been happening, and just seeing that we started off being like 6 deep with Howard, and we've expanded. We've gotten Q and Grambling. We got Jackson State on here, Spelman, Clark with Kalia a handful of times. And I just thinking about where we're going to go and how we're going to expand off of that. And I'm just very excited to see that. So this week is a little bit bittersweet for me, man, because we've been doing this for so long, and it's like, dang, like this started last year. We're in a whole different year. We in a whole different mode, and we just coming in and we're still going. I mean, we're still growing, still expanding. You know what I'm saying? So excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead and get myself together. So I'm gonna go, chill out a little bit, let some of the tears come, let them flow a little bit freely, and then get myself together for what we're about to get into soon. So until you see me once more, why don't you see Shania real quick?
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I am an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
And I wanted everyone to sort of pay attention to that affirmation, because if you didn't know, the logo, a little bit rusty, there, the Sankofa right there, that was different than what you saw when Shania was speaking, that had the original CCIA logo. And if you don't know what CCIA is, that is Clever Communities in Action. Without Ms. Starr and Mr. Jordan, none of the 2015 and beyond would be happening. We wouldn't be able to sit here and even speculate and sort of muse about what's to come without Clever Communities in Action setting the groundwork for what is to be done. And that mission started off as Clever Communities in Action, pushing for culturally affirming literature for Black children in, just the work, in the U.S. And now we're seeing that push and the mission sort of change. And not only are we pushing culturally affirming literature, but it's culturally affirming media, which is what you see here, in order to sort of heal a lot of the damages and wounds that have been caused by systemic racism, European hegemony, white supremacy, etc., etc. And that's why we want to start off with that affirmation. Never forget, without any of CIA, none of this would be able to happen and come on, because you can't really forget where you come from. And with that in mind, we're definitely not going to forget this absolute legend, like a prolific speaker. When we speak about American revolutionaries, when we speak about Black freedom fighters, this is like the seminal person, because he was just a few years older than I was. He was like he wouldn't have even been like graduated from college at this point. If you don't know who I'm talking about yet, we're talking about the Frederick Allen Hampton. That's right, Fred Hampton of Chicago, of the Black Panther Party. A very short life, but a life that had so much accomplished in it, which is why it was unfortunately cut short by the state because of just how powerful he is. And for those of you who don't know about Fred Hampton, walk with me for a bit. So, born on August 30th, 1948, in Summit, Illinois, Frederick Allen Hampton is one of the seminal leaders of the Black liberation struggle and a key figure within American politics during the 20th century. Hampton joined the Black Panther Party for self-defense in 1968, which was located in Oakland, California. Shout out to the town, where he used his experience from being the youth council president of Chicago's NAACP to aid him in leading the Black Panther Party's Chicago chapter. Hampton brokered a truce between two gangs within Chicago on local television, as well as creating a rainbow coalition that included the Students for a Democratic Society, the Blackstone Rangers, and the National Young Lords. The Rainbow Coalition was a combination of Black and brown people from various walks of life who had the shared goal of bettering their community. His efforts would lead him to the position of deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party Chicago chapter. This was also the time where the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, was heavily focused on Black nationalist groups, with the Black Panther Party at the top of their list. William O'Neill, who was an FBI informant, infiltrated the Black Panther Party and drugged Hampton on December 3rd, 1969. A few hours later, on December 4th, the Chicago police fired approximately 99 shots into the home of the sleeping Hampton, where he rested with his pregnant fiancée, Deborah Johnson. Hampton was only wounded in the initial fire that led the police to rush into the home and murder Mark Clark, who is a good friend of Fred Hampton and leader of the Panthers in Peoria, Illinois, and shot Hampton twice in the head. His abrupt and violent murder betrays his calm and peaceful spirit, but his memory lives on eternally with active minds everywhere. The saying he had people chant with him is, "I am a revolutionary." And we keep these words and his legacy in mind as we begin this week, I say. And this is a Clever Communities in Action production. So the book that goes with Fred Hampton here is his book that he had written, and I'm sure there would have been many more if he lived a little bit longer. And this is just a collection of Black Panther Party speeches. And there's another book that needs to be discussed here, and that is Panther in the Sky. It's a Clever Communities in Action favorite with the Virtual Village with Miss Bridget, who is a niece of Mark Clark, and it details the life of Mark Clark and his influence within the Black Panther Party. So Panther in the Sky is another book that we heavily suggest that you go out and get. It is a children's book and a great introduction to the Black Panther Party for anyone. So with that being said, we've covered up and gave our homage to Fred Hampton and the Hampton family. So now I'll give you guys a little break to sort of process some of the information that's become, because I'm gonna hit you guys with some people who are who know a little bit, a thing or two about history, and that'll be our historical context. So just to understand what the Black radical tradition is for some of you who don't know. I got some heavy Howard hitters with me, so we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. That's how you do it, fellas.
Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at JamesAllenGroup.com.
And I'm back. I'm back. So this is the fun part where I get friends. Friends. It's two of them, and they go to Howard as well. I don't know, man. This show is kind of weird because it's like the end, but it's not really the end. We still got a whole Thursday to go through. But I'm sitting here just like, wow, we've been doing this for like 7 weeks. We have a comment here. Hello, son. I'm so proud of you and the young man that you have truly become. Love you too, Grandma. That is my grandma, Patricia Starks. There, wishing us well, starting things off. And I'm gonna extend that to my friend Joseph Sturgeon. How you doing, Jody? Got the Howard shirt on. Proudly repping, proudly repping. Absolutely, absolutely. And we have another history major to accompany us. This man needs no introduction, and because I'm pretty sure his personality speaks for itself. And we have OBR Okiki. Oh, got the golden do-rag on and everything. Absolutely. All right, Obi, show us what you got on. On brand. Okay, let's go. We'll take it. Very black, very proud.
I did not know Howard gear was the attire for the evening. I was not informed.
I mean, it's whatever. I mean, it's not like we've been doing this for a minute or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I'm sorry.
We're talking about the Black radical tradition and how that relates to Black people around the diaspora, across the diaspora. And we can't really speak on the Black radical tradition without, mentioning Cedric Robinson. So, start us off, the Black radical tradition was first coined in 1983 by Robinson in his seminal text, Black Marxism, the making of the Black radical tradition. And the purpose of Black Marxism was to expand upon Marxism, which is the ideology that dialectical materialism is the sole driving force for progress and conflict. And for those of you who don't know what dialectical materialism is, which definitely I'm just saying because it sounds like a bunch of jargon, it's just the idea that resources are a finite. There are finite resources, and some people have them and some people don't. And the conflicts between the haves and the have-nots, this conflict over resources is the driving factor for human progress and human conflicts, which makes sense. This is how we get like the means of production and just other critiques of capitalism and proponents of some form of socialism or communism or the right will go to. So that was a really brief summary of dialectical materialism. But the fact is that Black Marxism was created because Marxism itself is very European in scope and doesn't fully account for a racialized individual, especially that of an African individual or someone who was noted as Black in society, and the nuances of all that come forward. So that is where the Black radical tradition comes from. And then to expand off of that, Robinson also has the book Black Movements in America, which is what we read in Dr. Carr's class. Isn't that right, Obi?
Mm-hmm.
You did not read that book.
Yes, but we did read the book. We did read the book, and I cited it in many essays. Many.
I read Black Marxism in Carr's class.
No, we read Black Movements in America.
Black Movements in America.
Mm.
But we
don't you have Black Marxism?
Me or him?
Yeah.
I don't have it because that book is expensive. It's on my list. It's on my list, but I haven't bought it yet.
How expensive is
it? When I was looking on like some of the vendors that I was looking at, it was like $40. So I mean,
say less, bro. Okay, so this is the fun part about being like broke college students. You can just like do this. You can be like, so if anyone wants to invest in 2050 and beyond and purchase Black Marxism for the group, so we'll be able to expand upon that. Please let us know. Just do it like that and then smile. That's how you do.
Look at his face. Okay, like I can't believe y'all.
Okay, but if we were like, if y'all want to tell Far back, he would be smiling and giddy. Pick one.
I have enough Telfar to last me a lifetime. I don't need another bag.
See, look at this
What is he
boo.
was rich?
Boy, you a member of the bourgeoisie. Boy, you a bourgeoisie.
You're
This
very
boy-
Next question.
bourgeois. So moving on, the Black radical tradition. We have Kimmy here. So hi, Kimmy, and Miss Star also waves at us. So how you doing? And so when we get into the Black radical tradition, the fun part about it is it's a cultural phenomenon that is unique to Black people, and you see it in every avenue of life. And the historical context piece of it is like, oh, okay, here are some moments where we sort of dissect it, but it's literally wherever we want to be. So we can talk about Fannie Lou Hamer and her Black radical tradition, which is the fact that, well, she advocated for voting rights as well as civil rights in the flatlands of Mississippi, which is to push back against the, I guess, infringement of rights on Black people. So that right there in itself and all of her activism. But then there's the fact that she was also an economic activist as well, with the pig bank and the sort of collective farming as well, because understanding that Black people didn't have access to land or any form of capital, and pigs were a form of capital because of the farming. So that right there in itself was a piece of that. Then we jump all the way to Oscar Micho in his works, where we see Micho using the film tradition, which didn't even exist because he created the Black film tradition and everything about that, and detailing Black American life, as well as what he saw through his eyes as a Black person in America. That in itself was the Black radical tradition. So we can talk about, okay, cool. See, you get it. Because then we can jump, okay, so we understand that it can be taken in any shape and form. So then we jump all the way to roughly around, like, let's say 200 years ago, to the Haitian Revolution, which is probably one of the more seminal forms of the Black radical tradition. Heavy on the Black Jacobins. He gets it. He sees me. So then we understand. So then we're like, okay, bet. So Haitian Revolution, Black social sustainability, Black affirmation, and now you see that it's not just within the continent of North America, but it's in the island of Haiti as well. Then we see that expanding upon that. Obi, what were the free towns in the in Brazil or in Portuguese areas? So it's with a Q.
I forgot the word. It
Was he supposed to have
It's
studied this in
not-
class?
Yeah, it was cars class.
yeah, it's a we learned Dr.
Quilombo.
But that was months ago.
Quilombo.
That was months ago. John
Were,
Mira here.
were they also maroonage, like towns where maroonage took place, or was it
I'm
founded
getting
through maroonage?
Absolutely.
We can talk
Maroon
about
Towns. So then we break that down, right? And we're talking about, they were called quilombos or Maroon Towns, which was just the Portuguese for maroon. So right there, the quilombos, right? So they are part of the Black radical tradition because they were African. They refused to be commodified at Black bodies for the European capitalist superstructure, and instead they chose to be free. Then I'm glad you mentioned maroon, because now we bring it all the way back to Florida, and we understand that the Florida Seminoles is the basically it's the American English word for the Spanish word, which is cimarron, which is just the Spanish for maroon. So the Seminoles were Black maroons who had linked up with indigenous Americans, who then were combating the European superstructure, trying to colonize the area and basically murder them. That right there is how the Black radical tradition influences and interacts with other marginalized and racialized groups. And we just staying, and right now we're in Brazil, Haiti, Florida, moving all the way back up. But then we can talk about how. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just had a question for you. The quilombos, like, what time period did that take place in?
Time period takes place around.
Wouldn't that be right after the Haitian Revolution, or like very close to?
Not at all. It's
Are you
like
sure?
no, it's the 1500s, because the moment that you start mass importing Africans to the New World, there aren't going to. So if you bring 100 African people to work on this plantation, not 100 of them are going to work on that plantation. It's going to be a handful of them that are like, nah, I'm good, and they're going to run into the woods somewhere, and they're going to set up, and that qualifies as a quilombo. For me, in the Great Dismal Swamp area of Virginia, that was a Maroon Town or a quilombo, and that right there shows that basically any place where people were running away and to sort of self-assure themselves constitutes as a free town. So the Quilombos start as early as black people start running away. And that right there is like the 1500s easily. But that's more so in the like the Caribbean as well as the South America, because North America doesn't start getting colonized as much until a little bit later on. But yeah, 1500s. So moving on, understanding that the Black radical tradition takes a myriad of ways and aspects that come on, we also have to understand that we still see the Black radical tradition, and especially in the realm of the intellectual field, which is how we get people like Dr. Carr and Black Studies, which was a part of the Black nationalist movement, which sort of works with the civil rights movement and Black Power movement. So what we're seeing here is that the Black radical tradition is a cultural phenomenon that impacts Black people wherever they go, where they wish to be not subjugated by white supremacy or European hegemony, nor do they want to be commodified. And that's how we get Assata Shakur fleeing prison along with her Black Liberation Army comrades and going to Cuba, therefore avoiding being commodified by the state as another inmate and living free in the Quilombo of Cuba. A little bit about the Black radical tradition there.
That's a lot. No, that's not just a little bit, buddy. That's a lot. That's
bro, I was flowing with it. I was feeling it, bro.
Because if this is gonna be a real fun show, because we ain't even scratched the surface yet. We ain't even
not at all, bro. Like it's the same way with like the Black media. Like it's so
we really could have gotten more into that if we wanted to.
Yeah, we actually. I agree. I definitely
we didn't even have time. We did not.
I even mentioned Shirley Pards.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just if you, because that's what's so great about Black people in our history, what makes it really difficult for us to sort of contextualize it, is we can only just like skim the top, because we can't even talk about, oh, okay, so the Quilombos are, they start in Brazil, but then they're in North America. But then we didn't even talk about how Queen Nzinga in Angola also had her own like nation of being a Quilombo. So it wasn't just like a town or a collection, it was a whole region in Africa that rivaled about the size of Europe. Just stuff.
It's funny because that like same occurrence, like as you mentioned the Haitian Revolution and all that before, they also had their own kind of Quilombos, and they called them Maroons, as you mentioned several times throughout the show. But yeah, like by 1789, there were like over 3,000 people in San Domingo, like living as Maroons and posing a threat to the white society of Haiti. And by the time the Haitian Revolution came around, like they were like a vital part into carrying out the revolution. So it's like the Black radical tradition. It I want to say that it duplicates itself. That was the word I was looking for. It kind of duplicates itself because you can just always look at the past and kind of look at what they was doing and then just adopt it yourself. It's really effective. It's really effective, and it works. It's Black people doing that. Just Black people. We ain't looking at no type of white movement that happened or something that happened somewhere else. No, this is like straight Blackness.
Absolutely. And it's like the African response to white supremacy. Like, yeah, sure, you say that you're the master race, and this is how we respond, and we always respond effortlessly. And forgot a bit of comments. Shania is here. Shania is who you see with our application. How you doing, Shania? Great to see you in. Miss Star said, I was driving, but that was we'll get the book for you, Joseph Wade. So at least Jody got the book. We got Black Market from our deck. Eric shouting us out. Eric is a loyal viewer and commenter. We appreciate Eric so much. We took some of our youth to the GDS, that is the Great Dismal Swamp, to reflect on the bravery and difficulties of Maroon life. And it was very difficult. And Kimmy says bars. And a bit about man, you could really just talk about this forever. It's like I get it now. But the Black radical tradition is extensive, and now we're seeing that in the age of technology, it's sort of forming itself into something else, and taking a new stride, a new shape. And we'll get into that later with our guest. And this is a rather intimate circle we'll have here, actually a square or rectangle, depending on what device you're using. And it'll be all Bison with us today. It'll be our good friend. I'll introduce her a little bit later on. But right now we have a word from our
sponsors.
Our sponsor.
There we
Yes.
go.
Hey everyone, it is Tasha Turnbull here, owner of T2 Fitness, and I am bringing to you all the Homebody Series. The Homebody Series was created because we are now more so at home, but guess what? I want us to feel connected. I want us to feel strong together. I want us to sweat together, and I want us to build our healthiest bodies possible. So we're going to be bringing you live workouts that you can do in the mornings, in the evenings, on the weekends, anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. They're going to be low impact workouts, high impact workouts, but guess what? No matter what your fitness level is, all workouts are going to be able to accommodate wherever you are along your fitness journey. So make sure you join us because we need to work out, we need to be strong, and we can do this all from home.
Hey, y'all ready?
Yeah, we ready? I don't know about Obi.
I used to pray for times like this, around like this. You just not gonna do it?
No. This is
Whatever.
This is a family-friendly show.
You just gonna get to the beat drop. That's all. You are lame, bro. How you go to an HBCU you don't want to do dreams and nightmares?
It's a family-friendly show.
I'm just confused about how it fits into the show.
No, literally.
It's a part of the Black radical tradition because if you
How?
see, my brother, hip hop is a response to the fact that white supremacy had put Black people into urban areas, Black people and other marginalized groups, and they forced us into live into these ransacked and dilapidated homes.
Actually,
We live in New York, so
that's
we
a valid
understand
point.
exactly.
Hip hop actually has given birth to a lot of Black radical thought and has facilitated a lot of it as well.
Absolutely, brother. And even the title, Dreams and Nightmares, is the dream to aspire to be better than what you see in your own neighborhood by getting out of the slums that you've been put in by white supremacy, the nightmare that you are forced to live. We see Meek Mill, the dichotomy of the dream and nightmare being Black within America. That is how it fits within the South.
I don't know about dreams and nightmares specifically, but in general, that is actually true. That is true.
James agree with me.
James is James.
Whatever, bro. So right now we have our good friend about to come on. And I'm pretty excited about it. So we've known Jada for a minute, man. Jada, poli-sci major, on the pre-lat track, going country. Political science major.
Right?
Oh God. Can I do it?
Huh? You want to do it?
Jada is a political science major on the pre-law track. She's from Georgia, I believe, right?
She's from Texas, bro.
She's from Texas. She's from Texas.
Introduction.
She's from Texas. She's a very beautiful person.
She splits her time between Chicago and Texas.
She's a very beautiful person, an amazing individual, a bison, loved by many. And yeah, we can bring her on now.
Like this, a beauty pageant, bro.
Absolutely. Welcome, Jada. How you doing?
Jada, have you ever been to Georgia before?
Yeah, I go to Georgia a lot, but I'm not from there.
No, okay, that's why I got confused. Because you talk about Georgia a lot.
Georgia.
Georgia.
You gonna sing for us? Take us to church.
My camera is freezing really bad. It is like.
Why did it actually start freezing when she was playing around?
Oh, she's like it.
Yeah, bro. She
Why
froze
did
it.
it actually freeze?
She doing a robot.
But
She
it's
doing-
actually lagging.
Yo, we can hear her,
You know
but
what I'm
we can't see her.
It look like you about to get a son talking to you. Why it freeze like that?
She said we frozen. Wait, is Obi? Oh no, Obi.
Obi not frozen.
Robot.
Obi.
All right. So,
Anyway.
Okay. So thank you, Jada, for being on. We have about an hour to chop it up with you. So we appreciate that. Thank you for coming on. This has been great. First time on the show. So we're gonna induct you a little bit later on before we skedaddle out of here. But understanding that the Black radical tradition is deep and very rich within Black people around the diaspora, and it takes myriad forms. We're come at the this intersection of the digital age, the technological age. We're seeing a lot of people. That's a joke because it looks like Jada froze again.
Yep. Hey, James.
Okay. Yeah. Continue.
You're so slow. Oh, bro. Anyway, I'm gonna miss doing this, but basically understanding that we're coming at this digital age. This is the age of information, and that the new digital spirit. Yep, we got Teddy Riley, bro.
Got new because she was really still for a long time.
Hey, them federal rallies coming for Jada. They don't want her
Like
speaking.
uncomfortable.
Right, everybody just give Jada your key. Just
I don't know nothing but the federal government.
are you gonna do it? You are the worst. Keep it. Oh no.
That ain't nothing but the federal government. I don't know what else to say.
But no, we talking about how the Black radical tradition and the information age and using social media, because really social media plays a big factor in a lot of, I guess, movements. That's how we got the Black Lives Matter movement, which we saw over the summer. We also saw the NSARS movement, the Anglophone crisis, as well as numerous conditions down in South America, especially with Brazil, and how they were also combating police brutality. And even now, what we see with the Red Pearl movement in Uganda. So understanding that social media has been a tool to raise awareness about certain issues that pertain to Africans around the world, how can we use the social media and the Black radical tradition to extend this awareness into a world of actual like physical change? So that way, instead of being like a simple retweet and a like or a share, and oh man, I feel bad, and you keep scrolling, how can we turn that into something that is like, okay, I see that you're struggling, and I'm going to help in this regard.
See, you popped in and popped right back out.
Really strong echo.
But I guess I was gonna put my insight into the fact that you know, in the 60s when we had like a heavy protest movement in the United States of America within Black communities, you know, we didn't really have social media, phones, and all that blah 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 to like just get in contact with each other in, you know, an immediate, like, just very simple way. And I think that social media, in a way, it just like, oh, Jaden, okay, yeah, whatever. Let me get back into what I was saying. Anyway, so it makes it a lot easier to reach people in situations and places that you wouldn't have thought you would have reached them before. But I also just like the advent of social media and the intertwining of social media and activism, because it allows people to control their own narratives. Because previous to about like maybe, I don't know, the 2010s, if there was ever a protest movement, basically there's one way that people would find out about it, and that's through the press. And the press is pretty much the press is controlled mostly, you know, by the hegemonic group of white people in the United States. It's funded by billionaires, and typically what the media does and what the press does is they spin their own narratives, or they report what they wanted to. But now what we've seen with a lot of recent protest movements is people will get into a situation and they'll just live tweet it right after it happens and be able to control their own narratives, so that the police isn't able to talk to the press and spin a lie about what they did. Like whoever just carried out whatever aggression isn't able to lie to the police about what they did and the press about what they did, because this person has this first person account just on the internet out there, and they can get that out to people. And you can't do much to combat that anymore, because, you know, people are going to give a lot of credit to these first person narratives. And Obi, I can see that.
Yeah, I want it because okay, you're speaking very absolutely, and I just want to say there's like a lot of gray area, because we've seen.
So, bro, if I get smacked on camera by a police officer, and then I'd be like, I hop on Twitter, I'm like, hey yo, police officer just smacked me on camera.
I'm not saying like your first person account and the first person recording, it would be like, held in high regard, but we've seen it happen so that news, like media outlets, report the story in a way that makes it ambiguous. And then this all of a sudden there's other recordings that don't really line up with the first one that we saw. So the actual narrative of what happened gets skewed. Or even worse, we've seen these social media apps delete videos or take people's accounts down because they're spreading hate or because it violates the terms of service. So there are other ways. I feel like there's a lot of ways that, like what you said is true. It definitely is true and it has value. Like we are seeing now people who are on the ground giving their accounts and narratives and their own recordings, but that it is not like it's not fail proof. Like I feel like at the same time,
if they do, they end up missing about 2 months later.
Exactly. Like there's like all this.
You probably, in most cases, depending on the situation, you probably don't want to put that up on there.
It's a lot of countermeasures too. Like a lot of the protesters,
like keep it under the radar.
A lot of the protesters who were identified in videos were at least I'm speaking from New York side. There was like when the George Floyd protest happened, a lot of them were actually tracked down to their apartments and taken to psych wards because they were exhibiting violent behavior, and therefore silenced through those means.
Mm-hmm. And remember, because they just spoke about this the other day, because the FBI is searching for all of those people that caused that insurrection at the Capitol the other day. They were like, "Yo, y'all really need our help with tips when these people are like maskless, just showing up to the Capitol and everything." But y'all, like the FBI tracked down that girl using like a design on her shirt, tracking it back to the shop that she bought it from, and then like getting her information that way, and then arresting her. So yeah, like I feel in a lot of ways social media can be used to advance people's activism, but also it's a double-edged like sword, because those same tools can be used kind of to antagonize Black activists and people participating in the Black radical tradition. So you're definitely correct.
The bodies who own, or the peoples and the organizations, the corporations who own and fund social media platforms, I would say use it to their advantage as well. So it definitely is like two conflicting forces, which is why I was making those faces when you were talking.
No, it makes sense, because we have to understand that, like, what Jody said, there's a lot of on the ground footage and a lot of on the ground reporting, but it comes at the expense of being protected on the ground, because a lot of these platforms, they just enable white supremacy anyway. I mean, they're owned by white people in these large corporations. So yeah, we see a lot of good, or at least real images of what people are going through at a protest or what's going on in the movement. But it comes at the expense of the fact that like their account might get suspended or banned or something. You got it, G.
Oh, you was going to keep going? And I also was going to say, and this is like the most irritating part about online activism. I'm not talking about co-opting. I'm talking about people that love just putting up images and videos of things that Black people don't want to see, things that are very traumatic, people putting up videos and images of Black death. And you know exactly who I'm talking about, because we're in the age where we're in the information age, and yes, it is very helpful if you have some type of multimedia method of like carrying out the way in which you raise awareness about things. But I don't have to see someone, just getting like murdered before my very eyes. Like you can say that it happened, and you can say that you got proof that it happened, and you can say this person did it, this is what they look like, blah blah blah. But I don't need to see that bullet fly. Like, so yeah, that's also a very
Jada then Obi.
Okay. I think that this online activism that we got on is really for like other cultures. Because if you think about it, like Black people kind of really already had that sense of anger and knowing what was going on in our neighborhoods. Like a lot of the times it's really to educate what we would say is the other. It's to educate those other people about what's going on with us, because it didn't take social media for us to be outraged. That was kind of the edge of it. It kind of set us on fire. It was like, wow, this is what's really going on. but then you see all these people, oh, let's black screen this, black screen that. I just feel like we kind of already knew what was going on. Even it's passed down to us. Like, we know this. We all get to talk. It's not like we had phones at the age of 10 when we were sat down at the table to say that, hey, your life might be in danger when we all get pulled over. So this kind of stuff that we already knew. And this kind of, I think this online activism is just, it doesn't exist. I don't think there's really anything because think about it, these petitions stuff, what are they really doing? When have you seen a petition really work?
Okay.
It's bringing notice, but I don't know.
Did y'all see that NSARS petition? Like, what was that going to do?
Okay, several things. Okay. So Jada's actually right though. I really love what she said, because social media, I do think, is primarily used to educate and spread awareness. That's where I think, because she said social media activism isn't real. I think it's just the purpose is primarily to educate others who aren't aware. But back to what she said about Black people, and we don't need social media. I feel like Black trauma is generational, and like what she said, like we didn't need social media to tell us that we are oppressed. We live that. And I think even before social media, back in the day, or when not that long ago, honestly, black death was on television so often. Lynchings were public outings for white people. Picnics, they would go to a picnic and lynch someone for fun. Like, it was.
And don't forget how they would headline it too, because they'll be like, oh, and especially in ways that they would like criminalize Black people, they'd be like, oh, well, yeah, come and look at this super predator who just
would take pictures and mail it. Like, it would be like, our postcards, it would be the front of the postcard for their family. Like, it was that type of entertainment for them. So it's like, maybe not social media, but throughout centuries now, I guess, all media in America has kind of really trivialized Black death for generations and generations and generations. So I really agree with what she said about we never really needed social media to tell us this.
Okay, so I can kind of feel the conversation going towards like this dichotomy of like online activism. So I feel that it's probably important that we talk about the two different kinds of online activism, which is like what I was getting into. But basically, there's the infographic petition. Let me bring up this issue on Twitter and let us argue about it for 6 hours and like watch it go nowhere type of online activism. And then there's, where people are like, okay, yeah, this has happened. This is what we finna do about it. And this is what they keep saying about us. And this is what actually happened. So I feel like those serve two entirely different purposes. And y'all can get into it if y'all want to, but I just wanted to like put that out there into the air, because I feel like in a lot of ways the two are equated and put together when they really shouldn't be, because you could tell like what's real and what's not. If you're a Black person.
I think they both have their place though.
They both. It depends.
It's weird because I don't think I know you're presenting one as worse than the other, but I don't think I don't think discourse online or petitions or infographics are negative inherently. I think it becomes a problem when that's all you do. I think it's an issue when that's all that's being done, or that's where the emphasis is being placed. I think that's the problem. But a lot of people
like they wrong takes up on the internet, or when it's like white people behind.
That's different. If you're not educated, don't speak. But like that's different. But when it comes to actual just spreading awareness and information, and petitions are respected in some.
It depends, because some people
petitions don't make sense because we know the government is corrupt. They're not going to listen to a petition.
They be like a petition to free Palestine, and like, come on,
right?
I mean, like
okay.
The Palestinian government even recognize
to serve a purpose. They have their place, but people like just will put the most asinine petitions on change.org. Like
that is actually a valid point as well. But I feel as though it's not all bad. Like I think it does have somewhat of a place. Jada, what do you want to say?
We turn activists into celebrities, and then they go and like just co-opt, liberalize, and all of that. We could talk about how KJ Brooks, and I don't want to like just put her on blast on the show.
Why was KJ the first one that you thought of?
Right.
We got other ones.
He's the most
talk about
Sean.
celebrity activists.
No, because that's not it, and it's not the Black radical traditions thing, but like they also just heralded the MSD activists heavily, and then some of them like turned out to be very anti-Black. Or that one kid, the one TikTok kid who swears that like he is this just groundbreaking political activist that I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's Ziad, right? The dude that got into Stanford by writing Black Lives Matter down the page.
Oh,
I
I
know
thought
what you're talking about.
the Trump dude. I thought you were talking about the other dude. You know what I'm talking
CJ?
about?
Oh, you're talking, no, you're talking about
No. This
You're
is
talking about the dude with the chin.
Yeah.
I've never seen this boy before, but continue.
Chin.
Keep going.
Oh, that was it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, with celebrity activists, I feel like, or activists that are celebrities, or just like, you know, well-known activists, I feel like to a certain extent they're really good for spreading awareness, but I've also seen it go very far left field. Like I've really seen them do more harm than good, which is a dicey topic. Like, I mean, because you mentioned KJ, we could talk about what just happened with her thing.
I can't name too many celebrity activists that I've seen like actually.
Sean King, DeRay McKesson.
No, actually,
activists, because that's your circles right there.
Oh, well, that's what I meant. I meant like well-known activists who kind of have platforms that people.
Think about it. Like they always get up there and get that platform, and then they do collateral damage.
Yeah, DeRay. But I see that I don't mean to cut anyone off. Sorry, but I see that we're going into the vein of celebrity activism and how there's a certain type of internet activism that doesn't lead to any sort of liberation. It's not radical whatsoever, and it's more so in the vein of a self-serving individualistic ideology. And we see that with Sean King, DeRay, because to expand off of the DeRay, yeah, because DeRay essentially sort of went to Baltimore after Frederick was murdered and was like, okay, I'm here now, I'm gonna fix things. And it's that sort of ideology where a person believes they can Superman a movement for a community. And that's what we saw with KJ Brooks and the recent Washington, D.C. thing. Except that was even more mind-boggling because Black people wasn't even at the Capitol, baby. It was just like...
It had nothing to do with us, bro.
What are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I understand what she was trying to do. I just think she did it in the worst way
because I didn't understand it.
Okay, so her thing was if she was trying to connect with DC organizers, she should have. That's what I was about to say. She should not have gone to Twitter to do that. That is what I think was the issue because she came forward and said that she actually knows people in DC already. So it was like, why would you put it on Twitter? And we already know what's going on with the government really uses social media to hurt us. So it's like, why?
And the government definitely follows her too. The government has her eyes on her. Like she's being followed around in her own city.
Y'all better she blocked this page on Twitter.
Yeah, she followed her. You heard her unfollow.
I mean, if you're watching this, KJ,
nothing against you. We're not saying you like.
It's not anything personal. I think I look at it like this. Like she's a 19-year-old girl. I mean, she's very outspoken. Yeah, she's 19. She was actually talking about transferring into Howard or something like that. She's 19. Yeah, but like that's what I was saying. I don't think it was a mistake or it wasn't thought out fully. I don't think it was because people were calling her a Fed, coming for her, doing all this stuff. I don't think it was that deep. I really understand
why people would be like, "This is a Fed," and a lot of people were saying that. Like I follow a lot of people that were saying that, and yeah, I mean, like she may not be a Fed, but it's a very valid. I think it was valid because she was just like, "Yo,
I don't think it was valid to call that girl a Fed."
She said, "Drop some Black militia."
I don't think it was valid. Because she made a tweet saying, "Drop DC organizers below if you're organizing DC." This is the time for Black people to unite. Yada 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 yada. It should have been done on a way more low key scale. Not not a Twitter account with 80K followers. No. Baby. That was the mistake.
And to sort of elaborate and then get off of that, that is the sort of the internet activism, because what she's doing in her area, I can't really speak on and speak against because it's still great work, and she's known in her area. So that right there is on the ground, and we always have to respect what happens on the ground, because that right there is actual you laboring for Black people's liberation. But in this virtual medium, this virtual space, you have to do things a lot differently, and that right there, it means that you can't be like, hey, who are the Black radicals you know? We need
literally
security numbers.
Black militia in the chat.
Okay, we need to know who has guns and if they're registered or not.
No, literally.
But don't tell nobody.
I'm right to the police.
I see that as a problem in general, because honestly, who knew about January 6th before this happened?
Well, I mean, it was mentioned a few times, and it was actually.
But see,
isn't it just the date that coincided with them voting on the inauguration?
Yeah, but like, if y'all think about it, every single protest around the world we know about, right? Like usually, if somebody's posting it somewhere, like you should to have people know that. But every time we have like a gathering, a big gathering, everyone knows about it. Nobody knew about this January 6th thing. And I think that's why it was so easy for them to break in or like have so many people there and not really speak, Jai.
So here's the thing. People knew about it. It's just the fact that, well, when we say people, the federal government knew this was happening. The FBI knew about it happening for quite some time, a couple weeks at the least. That's what they tell us. Okay. And they just didn't do anything, because white people don't see other white people as threats, which is why they're like,
Anyway,
someone's gonna have to take care of that soon.
Even on the FBI level, I was gonna say, even at, like, if you go off the FBI, like if you just look at, like, there was actually a whole thread exposing like just how long this has been in the works. If you look on like just random TikTok videos, it's white girls talking about y'all not ready for January 6th though. Random Reddit threads, Facebook groups. Even Trump tweeted about it back in December.
See, and that's the thing. That's that
completely off grid though, like, because that was the date that they were going to do the vote. So like,
now he froze.
Deal for months.
Bro, he was exposed to white supremacist secrets and froze.
No way, yo.
This is how. And I guess you. Am I still frozen?
You good.
Okay, I mean, this is even true for any type of activism, whether it's right wing, left wing, or anything. Basically, if you're going to carry out a protest, you're usually going to save like a special date that something happens to like cause that protest. And I'm pretty sure it was just because they were going to like do the vote. Like it's like, we don't want a transition of power. You know, we're going to stage a coup. This is the day that they're going to vote on his inauguration. So, you know, like we're going to show up and interrupt that entire process. So I feel like even if you were entirely off the grid, you would have known that something was going to happen that day. I'm just concerned that I'm concerned that they actually had all the congressmen just in the chamber on the floor, like while these people were rushing the Capitol, and just like swept them and like evacuated left. Like that was really, really, really cutting it close there. Because somebody,
I was surprised. I was thinking there's gonna be like an underground tunnel somewhere in that building.
Okay, Wayne.
Wayne. That's classified information, which I do not know about. Anyway, we can. The police are definitely in the know. I feel like the government, certain members of the government were in support of this happening. And just to like bring this to the table as well, there's been a lot of social media discourse about January 19th, the day before the inauguration. So let's just be prepared for that as well.
Okay, I
feel like I'm just saying, none of y'all can say y'all didn't know now because they've been talking about it.
Okay, here's the thing though. Okay, I feel like to actually successfully carry out this coup, they are going to need like a heavy proportion of the military with them and on their side to actually successfully do it. And I mean, some of them are, which is the scary part. I don't think that enough are.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could see the end of the empire coming soon in a right-wing coup. So that's not very pretty. But I feel like even in that situation, like that little new empire would be a lot like more tenuous and a lot easier to overthrow. So am I getting too far?
I mean,
We all gonna freeze in a second. Let's go.
Stop.
Yeah, Jody, stop. Because a lot of people.
It's a right-wing coup. It's not us conspiring; it's them conspiring.
Yeah, and I wanted to piggyback off what Jody said because a lot of people are saying that this is a Trump coup, and a coup needs a military arm to be successful, and that's what we saw with Napoleon and how he sort of commandeered the French Revolution, and that's how we see other military coups within the global South with Africa and other European powers. There needs to be a militaristic agent, a part of that. Just because Trump and a handful of other Republicans refuse to accept that Biden won the election, it doesn't automatically make it a coup. A coup needs some sort of militaristic force. And to call what we saw on the 6th an insurrection or a revolt or a rebellion is kind of disrespectful to every other sort of rebellion and all other governments that suffered an American coup, because this was just play. Like, this was at most a riot, nothing of that level. And we could speculate and talk about how the fact that the federal government knew about the FBI and other members knew that this was going to happen and how that might be attributed to coup-like tendencies. But until the U.S. military comes out and says, we support President Trump in his decision to remain in power and we will support it by force, then it means nothing. And a lot of people are sort of tossing the word around rather quickly and so sort of distort things, because then people are like, oh, okay, cool. So we have the Trump coup, and then we have the Venezuelan coup and the Brazilian coup and literally every other coup. And the fact is that an unsuccessful coup means that people usually die. If the Trump coup is unsuccessful, then do we believe that he will be executed for treason? Which is why no one is tossing the word treason around, because that is one of the only crimes listed in the Constitution. That is a crime that warrants death.
Actually, Trump he wasn't tried for treason, but he was accused of it.
They're trying to impeach him again for the little insurrection that was happening.
Yeah, so the impeachment part too.
His love affair with the Russians definitely was.
They throw that around all the time. Russian this, Russia that.
But he's been accused of treason over his relationship with Vladimir.
Okay, but has it been formal?
I don't know.
Because if it's formal, then he gets.
No.
Like, you die if you're accused of treason.
Accused or found guilty of?
Accused and found guilty. My apologies.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, huh? Because a lot of people have accused him of treason publicly.
Absolutely, they do it all the time, but not to the point where they're going to bring formal documents and make it a part of the measures. Because they don't want
to do, even if so, they don't want to do that to a sitting president. How weak does that make your empire look?
Well,
if Nixon didn't get accused of treason, Trump is.
To a white man.
Also,
you know how hard it was to get him impeached the first time?
No, it seemed pretty easy to me.
It wasn't that.
Bro, they had a Mueller report, right? They was like, the Mueller report gonna get him. The Muslim ban, Russia, oh my God, the cheating, the sex scandal, we gonna get him. It's gonna.
I forgot what he was even impeached for. Like,
exactly, bro. Trump has committed so many different felonies, federal crimes, and they just sitting there like, well, somebody has to do something.
I think we haven't even uncovered all of them yet, because where are the missing children at the border?
So there's just like
real question, Obi.
Where are the missing children at the border? Like our internment camps at the border. Where are the children at?
Those are human violations.
Those are literally I feel like with Trump's atrocities haven't even been addressed in full. And I think we won't even do that until after.
What they're going to do 20 years from now or 40 years from now, when they're studying this in U.S. history classes, they're going to be like, oh yeah, the Trump administration, they were actively committing human rights violations And majority of the country was not only against it, but we fought hard against it. And we impeached that man, so we got him out of here. They're gonna like revise it heavily.
Does Interpol have a number? The International Police Department, like, do they have a number?
You want to call the international who?
Interpol, because
you just want to call them up like, hey.
Because I'm sorry, it's like, how is the UN not doing anything? Okay,
The UN with military force.
I understand that, but it's like the children are gone.
Okay, think of it like this.
The travel bans.
Obi.
If it was Sudan
20 years ago during like Iraq, and there was no real evidence that weapons of mass destruction were there, and then the UN was like, "Hey, Bush, you should calm down," and Bush was like, "Yeah, I will," and then I'll calm down when you show me your army. That's right, you're the United Nations. You don't have an army. That's what it really like. It's backed by United States. The UN military power is sort of helped mainly by NATO, and NATO's finance, like mostly with military bodies from the US. So, yeah, nothing's gonna come of the Trump thing. Or really
still in the World Health Organization, or are we still out of it?
Yeah, we're done. He snipped that.
How is he just allowed to do that?
But we're moving on with the Black radical tradition. We spoke at length about what it's like, and seeing that social media can be used as an agent, I wanted to move forward with that because we talk about how useless social media can be with activism. There are a lot of armchair activists, and there are a lot of people who see activism as something that should be done for clout. No names, but moving on with that route is like seeing that social media does bring awareness to issues and it does connect people. And this is a form of social media activism in itself with the political education piece, as well as just connecting people and letting people, okay, I know I'm not that funny, bro. I know I'm not funny, bro.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're still thinking about the children at the border, and it's like they gone.
Oh my God. I'm not even okay.
Like
to bring it back to black people, though.
It's clip.
To bring it back to black people.
Circle back around.
That's the way the empire works.
I don't even know what to. When it comes to
continue.
Okay. I thought we was going to say something.
Okay, a lot of people, and this is going to be a very controversial statement, and I don't agree with it, but a lot of people have been looking for the next MLK, the next Malcolm X, and a lot of people have likened our social media activists to those people, or some certain politicians to those people. For example, there's one woman, AOC, who is very commonly compared to MLK, which I just wanted your thoughts on
that comparison.
Why?
Do you have an app called Twitter?
No,
I don't know.
Taking over the panel.
I ain't never seen
a lot. It's actually disturbing. Like, if you type in MLK AOC, it will come up.
I ain't never seen AOC house get bombed.
Honestly, okay, I don't have.
I ain't never seen AOC get death threats.
AOC does get death threats.
AOC,
but AOC
she
does get death threats. But that's not even the point. Like, she's just one example.
Are they saying,
for example, like people have compared Sean King to Malcolm X. Like, it's happening.
He's Malcolm X.
You have to compare.
Yeah, I've seen the Malcolm X jokes, but
Not Malcolm X.
No. With that, because I see what you're saying in the idea that there needs to be a Black Messiah, and even with the next Fred Hampton movie coming up, entitled The Black Messiah, and it's like the Black Messiah term is really a J. Edgar Hoover term in the sense that white supremacy believes that Black movements are centralized, and they're not. There are certain people who can articulate a certain aspect of the movement better for more people, and that's what we saw with Malcolm X. That's what we saw with Fred Hampton. That's what we saw with Martin Luther King. That's what we saw with Huey Newton. So we saw with Assata Shakur. That's what we saw with Angela Davis. There are certain people, and that's what we saw with Baba Touré. And there's this idea that when it comes to the Black radical tradition, that it can be centralized, and that's why people are looking for the next Malcolm X or the next Martin Luther King Jr. ignoring the fact that no one wants to be the face of black movements because no one wants to be martyred. And when I say no one wants to be martyred, it's the sense that no one who's really in this for liberation wants to be martyred. There are some people who are comfortable in understanding that their lives will be threatened, but no one goes into the black liberation struggle like, I'm gonna get killed on this day, they're gonna give me a holiday, black people gonna mention my name in the history books, and I'm gonna get t-shirts with my face on it. No one does that.
Yeah, because I was about to say, even the call for it, like you mentioned that nobody just wants to be that person because they don't want to be the big martyr.
People want to be that person.
Oh, yeah. Actually, right there, and we can get into how those are the people that we were mentioning earlier.
Absolutely.
Oh,
but
I ain't say, oh wait, hold on.
Like that's
because but continue.
No, but I was going to say, like, that's a dangerous call because as a collective, and we never agree on this as a collective because, like we said, it is not really centralized. But if we all agree that, this person right next to me, Jameer Starks, right? He's the next Black Messiah. Guess what happens to Jameer Starks? The FBI gathers a file on him. They look for him. They search for him. They chase him either out the country. That's if he can escape. And if he doesn't escape, then we already know what the fateful ending will be.
But I feel
the FBI. So it's like you can't just ask for somebody to step up as the next Black Messiah. That's like dangerous.
But what about the people who are?
But
you can formally do that because if we all agree as a collective that like this person is going to be the person that is going to take us to like, I don't know, liberation, then they're like, oh yeah, we got to get rid of that person. We got to snipe them. Now, if somebody wants to step up and openly like just go on Twitter or just, show up in Washington, get on this big podium and be like, I will be the sole human being that will bring the Black masses liberation, you're putting a target on your back. And if they're okay with that, they're okay with that. But I mean, like, you stifling a movement.
But can there even be one though? Because everyone really has different ideas and different thinking behind how to liberate Black people. Like in the movement, they painted Malcolm. They painted Malcolm as the bad guy. MLK is like, oh, this peaceful man. And there was people that were really behind what he had to say and what Malcolm had to say. There was two. I feel like in a sense they show it as a clash. It wasn't really a clash.
It wasn't a clash at all.
Yeah, but people have different opinions about how it should be handled. So how do you really choose one Black Messiah, and why do we really need someone to kind of push us?
Let her finish, G.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I feel like that kind of plays into like American society of we all need to have one person to follow, when I feel like the African people are a collective. We are a group.
Absolutely.
So why is it that we need one person to stand up for us when the government works with different people talking to each other to bring it up to the quote unquote leader? Like the president is a joke, a show. There's people behind him, various people working behind him to kind of push us through. It's not really just that one person. So if we do choose a Black Messiah, it's a show, it's a front for them to be, like they said, martyred, to be killed. So it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
And also, I feel like this very, very, very limited view of having one Black Messiah, I feel like it's a result of just American propaganda and how they portray our movements. Because when you look at like any large scale movement in the United States that happened at the hands of Black people, you can name well over 100 activists that were heavily involved and like actively just made things happen. Like it's never one or two people, but like that's what I feel like it's a result of American propaganda, because nobody wants to they don't want people to take that like collective effort to, like carry out a movement as a people, which is why I think that they gave MLK his own day. Because I feel like when you look back on the civil rights movement, you're like, okay, so yeah, we want to talk about the civil rights movement and we want to teach it to our white American kids and our Black American people. And basically what we're going to have them believe is MLK was just like this one dude who inspired like everyone in the country, when it was really a lot of grassroots and on the ground movement between like several people and several communities that made that all happen. Because they don't want like a communal uprising. It's very hard to express that.
Do you think martyrdom? Do you think it's necessary at all?
Yes, it is. Martyrdom is necessary, but it's not necessary for the people, but it's something that's gonna happen, unfortunately, because there can't be any social change that involves black people that is fundamental for liberating black people that won't see not a loss of life. So martyrdom is a necessity that wants to be avoided because, like, unfortunately, people have died for what they believe in, and that's the price that they had to pay. And no one goes into the game like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna die for this today. Like, this is how I'm gonna do it. No, it's just that idea in the back of your mind that I'm doing something that is unsafe, but it's necessary. And I think that anyone who's serious about this has the capacity to be a martyr, but everyone knows that being a martyr isn't helpful because you're better off alive amongst your people than you're being revered.
And then martyrdom is really at the hands of the oppressor. It's a tactic of terrorism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, you can even like take this way back into simple terms when you're talking about basically slavery and how slave owners went about maintaining their little enterprise. Basically, they wanted to stifle a revolt among like their plantation or the larger like slave community in whatever like city or state they're in. What they do is they take one person that has the gall to go and challenge them and challenge their entire enterprise and, cut off their head and take it and hold it up and be like, okay, if you want to be like this person, go ahead and try me. But if you don't, you'll just get back to work and shut up and like watch me last year or whatever. So we shouldn't really strive for martyrdom. I don't think that it's going to happen, like Jaimir said, but it's like not something we necessarily want to happen. And when it does happen, I think that it should only just fuel our ire more rather than stifle us, because that's what it's meant to do. Like they don't kill them for no reason. It's to make an example of somebody.
Absolutely. So, and anybody black can be a martyr because we're talking about like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, but George Floyd and Breonna Taylor are also martyrs. And then you understand that martyrdom is a tool used by the state to sort of, like Jody said, stifle black people in any racialized group, because it's basically, hey, one of you is going to die as tribute, so everyone else stays in line. So you're going to be a tribute. So they're basically tributes to the European white supremacist superstructure. And it's very unfortunate that we have to talk about this because a lot of people see this. It's a psychological tactic in the sense that a person dies, we revere this person, but no one wants to be like that person, but aspire to be like them. But no one wants to be like them because they're dead. So everyone wants to be like, yeah, I want to be like Martin Luther King Jr. I want to be like Malcolm X, but I don't want to die for it. And then it gets in, sort of tie it back a little bit about how it builds this individualism, because like Jay said, black people, African people, we are communal. And then martyrdom sets one person aside and says, this was the exemplary person amongst you all. This was the person who did it, who needed everything to be done. The rest of you guys lived. Did you do enough? And it completely waters down the civil rights movement when you knock it up to Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, integrated school buses, Brown versus education. Now everyone gets to sit at ice cream corners next to each other, because then it's like it takes away from the fact that there were thousands of black people in the streets marching. There were thousands of black people fighting. There were thousands of black people who are armed. There were thousands of black people who are unarmed. And that right there is the black radical tradition in itself, is that there are going to be exemplary people, but the movement itself doesn't have a leader. It's never had a leader. It just had a person who was there at the time to articulate the feelings for the movement. And that is what we saw with the protest and why it was so organic. No one was looking for Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson to come up there and be like, black people, I come to you as the next black messiah after I spoke with Martin Luther King Jr. in my dream, and he told me that everyone needs to come out there and march. No, people were very upset. And we saw those exemplary people at those right moments come out. And that's how we get certain classmates in HU24 who are leading protests. That's how we see that happen all around the country, is with the diaspora. So to sort of wrap everything together, the Black radical tradition, like you said, it's a cultural phenomenon, as well as the fact that it's not individualistic. It's not held by a certain person. Anyone can access it. Everyone accesses it who understands the need for being Black and affirming their own Blackness. And the martyrdom topic, as well as just that social media influencer or that like celebrity activist thing where people aspire to have that clout and recognition, it all derives from the fact that they still have a European or white mentality of what Black liberation is. And it's the fact that you cannot look for someone else to give you your freedom, and you cannot look for someone else to pardon you or say, hey, you're a person. You have to get that for yourself. And Black people have been doing that since the moment we stepped on this continent. So really, like the Black radical tradition is just Black self-determination for real, in short. Y'all quiet.
We listening.
I don't got nothing else to really say.
Yeah, like we summed it up.
You kind of put it all in the words. No one has anything against it.
But before we wrap things up here, we have a couple of minutes left with everyone, and I just wanted to say there's something else that I wanted to speak on, and there's the Black radical tradition in the realm of the intelligentista, or those who have degrees, those who are supposed to have some form of intellect. Talking about the Black radical tradition and how the fact that Black people go to college, get a degree, and sort of lose that radical nature as well as that idea of Blackness. So how can we as current college students sort of continue the Black radical tradition and not get wrapped into the game of, oh, well, I'm good. I got my degree and my let's say 5-figure job.
Sir, I am going to be a lawmaker, and I need to keep my scholarship at Howard University. And I don't need the president coming after me.
Why are you laughing? Because that's a continue.
I decided I wanted to.
Jody joking. This man Obi sitting there like, I gotta protect my coins. Period.
I'm not okay. Let me say this right now. There is a way to go about everything, and it's especially because we are aware of where we go to and the nature of the place that we go to. There is definitely a way to approach everything. And I mean, to be honest, you said what?
Did you just call me a boy and tell me to mind my manners?
Yes. And what Ja was talking about was more with like post undergraduate, because he's talking about
talking about the Black academics.
Yeah. So like you don't even have to mention like right now, just for your personal safety. Continue.
Personal safety. Oh, that boy, the answer got you scared. Oh, you're the scared one.
Continue.
No, I think it's easier now. I think it'll be a lot easier. All you have to really do is be unapologetic. A lot of the reasons that people lose this radical idea is because they want to kiss up to other people and keep their job, quote unquote. But I feel like our generation is kind of like, okay, forget this job. This is what I want to say. I'm going to say it. But maybe we might grow out of it when we get older, like our parents did. But just continue this, kind of ingrain this in your children. I feel like if they know it, you're not going to forget it because that's with you. Or like just kind of really just be unapologetic. I
think throughout history, the younger generation has always been kind of counterculture, or like what Jada said, very unapologetic. But as they grow older, they kind of crave stability and, start families and need to have jobs and need to be secure. And not everyone really is ready to risk their lives or risk their standing in the white man society to be unapologetic, which is why I think as people grow older, especially in a postgraduate sense, they tend to be less radical or more quiet or more, they pick their battles way more, or they may never fight again, honestly.
Or they just get tired of getting arrested every like 6 months.
Well, that is the other side of the coin. Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of really want to say it's like I really wouldn't know how to go about, because okay, if anything, I would say that the institutions that we attend, they kind of play a part in just suppressing that revolutionary fire in a lot of people through means of propaganda and incrementalism, just diving into their heads. So I feel, if anything, while you're still going through your graduate education, I think you got to do like the most to maybe challenge your institution to be like more radical and to like encourage that thought. Because if the entire time they're suppressing it, I mean, you're the one that paid to go to the school for 4 years. I mean, like, eventually you're just gonna give into what they say. It is hard because I feel like you got to be built for it. You got to going into it. You got to be built for it.
It's something you have to actively choose over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and psychologically, when we get older, we seek security. That's what we want.
That's true. And even like, not to even using situations on our level, it like we even see like when we are taking stands against our university, or even like not even the whole university, let's say against a certain part of it, people do get bogged down over time. People tend to be like, okay, well, you know what? I really can't spend my whole 4 years talking about this, or it maybe just is not meant to happen. And I mean, I agree it's a problem, but I feel like I really don't know how to address it, because it's like like Jada said, it's like a psychological response. I just like, for example, I don't know if y'all saw the viral video, but during the George Floyd protest, there was this man. There was a 40-year-old man, a 26-year-old man, and then like a teenager. He was like, "I'm 40 and I'm angry." He's 26 and he's angry, and you're 16 and you're angry. And like, when are we gonna find a solution? Like, it's like he was basically saying throughout history, like people throughout generation to generation, there's still anger. They're like, he's just not able. He said it's on the younger people to figure something out, because he said he's not able to risk what he has and his family standing and everything. And I think that's an example of what we're talking about right now. How do we address that? I really don't know.
I think the closest thing to a solution that we have to this problem is a lot of people approach activism with this idea that the entire thing is just like getting mad, going to a protest, giving it to the man, and then you go back home, and then the next time that something that makes you angry happens, you go do it all over again. But it can be more so of a lifestyle, and I feel like if you implant an idea in people's heads that, they can keep a life of stability, but also have a sense of just loyalty to their community and a kind of obligation to the community, that you can build that, because every single community needs both healing, help, and resources. And you can do that as like someone that was a Black academic or a Black lawyer or a Black woodworker or whatever. You can go back into your community and you can bring your skills you get from this little 9-to-5 job you got going that's not so revolutionary, but like it can be two entirely different things. So I feel like it's not really more so of like a crushing of the revolutionary spirit, but like just letting people know that there are several ways that they can approach like their Black radicalism.
Yeah,
That is actually a valid point.
And
There's like more than one way.
sorry, go Opie.
I was just gonna say, like, I remember having this conversation earlier too about how there's more than one way to protest than physical protesting. But yeah, JD, you could go.
I was gonna say, like, I think people really look at it phase more than as something that really needs to change. Oh, they're young, they're gonna get angry and stand up for what they believe in. But I'm older. People don't. And then when you look at it as a lifestyle, you're like, I can't stay angry this long. I can't continue to hold this anger.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how you can. I feel like it's easy though. I feel like just remember what you started, why you started it, what kind of fueled the reason why you decided to go into this activism, and keep that going. I don't think it's that hard to do, but for some people it is.
I think one. So,
To sort of touch on what Jada said, a lot of what we're saying is like individualistic in the sense that to bring it back, what Obi said was like, okay, the 46-year-old, the 26-year-old, and the 16-year-old, they were all angry, but they were all standing next to each other in the streets being angry together. Then all go to their individual homes and never speak to each other again. So
Right.
anger sits there and festers inside of them. But the 46-year-old can tell the 26-year-old things that the 26-year-old and 16-year-old don't know because he has 20 to 30 years experience on them. And yes, you do have a family to provide for, but also no one understands that they have a community to provide for as well. And that's the thing, because it's not sustainable. You can't be angry your whole life and not talk to nobody because then you'll go crazy or you'll at least be extremely depressed or be a misanthrope. And that's what we said. It's a communalistic endeavor. So what can they so that's really what it's about. And the protest starts with understanding that there is a communal aspect to protest, not in the sense that everyone comes together and cries and yells at the police and gets pepper sprayed, beat over the head, and then go back home. Because then it's like, okay, community,
Right.
one day out of every 2 years. What about the community? Okay, someone's late or behind on rent. Help them out. I know money is really tight though for everybody. So, somebody cooks for a certain group of families and somebody buys the groceries. And that way we understand that the family unit isn't just in the home, but the family is the community itself. And that way we can move forward. Because if I'm angry, I look to you guys to sort of mellow me out. And I'll do the same for you any day of the week. Just believe that. And that's what it's really about. That's what the Black radical tradition is not only understanding that Black people have to reaffirm ourselves in this Black self-determination, but it's also that it's Black communal self-determination and it's Black communal affirmation. And with that, I'm gonna have to wrap things up because we got a little bit to go. But Jada, I want to do something that I tend to forget to do. And that is welcome you to the Mbongi Goodfellas, as you can see. And that right there is this wonderful space we have for everyone who comes on. It's our council of scholars as well. I like Mbongi Goodfellas. I'd put it on a shirt. I would. But welcome. Thank you for fellowshipping with us. Do you have any words to say?
Thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed this a lot.
No, man, I'm glad to have you on, mate. And before you go, we have two other things to announce. So the Virtual Village season 4 is coming to you on February 1st. That's right, 0201. If you remember what that is, it is where we have teachers, where we have readers, where we have community connectors, but more so where we have the kids come in and get that culturally affirming literature. We're never going to forget our roots. It's all about the books, and we're getting back to the books and the basics on the 1st of February. Be sure for that. And before that, next Monday on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that's right, MLK, not AOC, we have our Martin Luther King Jr. show where we go in and we discuss a fuller side of Martin Luther King Jr., which is what we touched on a little bit here about how there's usually a dichotomy of, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X sort of pushed against each other, and how Martin Luther King Jr. was all rosy-eyed and, rainbows.
It was rough, bro.
It was rough. It was rough for MLK, and especially the smear campaign with him being a lecherous Black male thirsting after white women that's purported a lot often. So we'll be discussing the actual life of Martin Luther King Jr. soon on the 18th. So make sure you're there. And also, as one more final note, our last show for season 1 of 2050 and Beyond will be this Thursday. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, let everyone know. We started off with a bang. We want to make sure we end with an even bigger one. I've had a pleasure being your host these past couple weeks. I've just had my brothers with me. I had Howard right there with me too. Shout out to all the bison who was running. So you guys got any words when we hear a word from our sponsors?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's hear.
What's the word?
Wait, never mind. Oh my God.
Anyways, thank you for having me and Obi and Jada here today, Jamir. It is always a pleasure being on your show and talking politics and history, social commentary with y'all on 2050 and Beyond. Obi is killing me right now, bro.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Free is just looking at that man.
I really thought we were going to sponsor, so I was like, yes, let's go to our sponsor.
You were such a clown, dog. But he said yes. And it was funny. But right now, we have a word from our
sponsors.
Smart kids make our world better. At Heavenly Hearts, we believe that the right foundation is key to our future leader success. With our 4 key learning principles, which are inclusive learning environment, early exposure to financial literacy, community engagement, science and technology with engineering, art, and math labs, will enrich each one of our future leaders as well as the community they are part of. In these unprecedented times, the $59 billion childcare industry has been dramatically impacted by the pandemic. Heavenly Hearts has currently implemented several advanced health and safety precautions to protect our children and staff at our current licensed facility in Chesapeake, Virginia. Our new location will continue to use advanced technology to protect our children from this and future threats to their health and safety, as our mission is to educate, empower, and equip our students with the necessary foundation to be holistically successful throughout life. We invite you to get involved. As an investor or community partner, you can help in a variety of ways. Contact Serena Mann at 757-254-8156.